What I've got here are Shapton combination stones. I first heard about these from a subscriber to the channel. He was looking at what I was doing with sharpening and thought that these might work very well for me, and he had suggested them. They are ceramic water stones made by Shapton that are different grits on each side. The abrasive used is the same as the abrasive in their glass water stones. It took me a little bit to get around to picking these up due to the cost, and the cost isn't a terribly large amount, but not cheap either for the set. So I ordered the stones. They're offered exclusively from sharpeningsupplies.com. If you're a sharpener or if you're interested in sharpening, that's a website that you should probably take a look at. I ordered the stones, I got them in. There was no fancy packaging with these. I mean, with other Shaptons, what you run into is very nice, durable packaging that they come in from Shapton that you can keep them in. These didn't have that. They were just the stones in a fairly thick plastic wrap in a box with some bubble wrap to keep them from getting hurt. That's fine. I mean, the plastic packaging would be nice just for storage purposes, but it's not necessary. So they came in, and I wanted to use them, and I decided to use them on Hap 40. This Hap 40 Delica was due to be sharpened anyway, so I thought this was as good as anything else. So I started off on the grit sizes that these are 500, 2,000, 6,000, and 16,000. So I started off on the 500 grit, which is 29.4 micron. These are, I use these stones splash and go. I started in on the 500, and I was taking it slow. I had a feeling I would run into the stone being very aggressive. Shaptons are known for cutting well, and a 500 grit water stone is, if it's made right, you're talking about an aggressive stone. If you're not, especially with this type of sharpening, with the technique that I was using, if you're not paying attention and you make a mistake, you could end up scarring your knife, scarring the primary grind or whatever. The 500 is going to cut very fast. So I took it slow, and this knife in Hap 40, there was diamond stones involved in the last sharpening of it, and consequently you could see that in the edge bevel, the scratch pattern. The 500 grit stone didn't have any trouble taking the scratch pattern out. I worked my way through the 500 and moved on to the 2000 grit, which is 7.35 micron. That too it's still aggressive. I mean, the Shapton's cut fast anyway, but I noticed it. I noticed that the 2000 grit did still feel aggressive. After the 2000, I moved on to the 6000. I worked with that. By the time I got to the 6000, the aggression had calmed down. After the 6000, I moved on to the 16,000, which is 0.92 micron. Now, on the 6000, I began to notice that it was leaving a reflective surface on the edge bevel. The 16,000 only enhanced that. And with this sharpening, as far as stones go, I only used the Shaptons. I didn't use a Spyderco Ultrafine. I didn't use a 12,000 grit Shapton. I didn't use any other water stones. I could have, and I'm sure that the polish, the final polish would have enhanced that, but I didn't want to. I wanted just to use these stones and see what I came up with and just evaluate that. Something that I noticed coming off the 16,000 grit stone, I was doing stone in hand sharpening, which these are kind of ideal for as far as size goes. I was only moving back and forth. I wasn't employing any techniques, lateral movements to refine the edge, to cause it to be a higher polish. You can do that. There are movements you can make in sharpening that will do that, and I wasn't doing that. It's something I've been experimenting with lately, and I'm not sure that it seems to be taking the bite out of the edge. So with this, I was only making back and forth movements on the stone. At the point where I felt like I was finished up with the 16,000, I did several strokes for burr removal. I didn't look if there was a burr, I just did several strokes for burr removal. Not increasing the angle, not putting it on a micro bevel, just very light movements, and I did 2 passes on each side. I noticed after that that there was no burr on the knife. I couldn't, using a light, I couldn't find any burr on the edge at all, which was surprising. I don't remember that being something that was inherent to Hap 40, so I'm guessing it was the stone. And if that's the case, that's very interesting in and of itself. The other thing that I noticed after the 16,000 grit was the knife would whittle hair. That too was surprising. I mean, keep in mind, yeah, 16,000 grit is 0.92 micron, but still. I mean, you hear about knives being able to whittle hair right off a stone. I've heard about that with the Spyderco Ultrafine. But when I've heard about it, that was with steels like 8CR13 MOV. Hap 40 has significant abrasion resistance compared to something like 8CR13 MOV. So I was surprised. That the stone took it that far. I moved on to strops after that, and I thought it would be interesting, given that looking at the micron size, the grit size of these stones in microns, I thought it would be interesting not to back up at all and just to keep moving forward. So instead of jumping back as far as the strops go, I just moved on to a half micron from the 0.92. All the stropping was done on wood. I worked with the half micron, and after the half micron strop, I moved on to a quarter micron using a diamond spray, and then a 0.05 micron, then a 0.025 micron. Like I said, the final polish of the edge, I mean, it's a little bit polished, but it's not spectacular. But the sharpness was there. I mean, very, very much. The edge came out very sharp. It's plenty aggressive enough. It wants to bite right in, and that's something I've noticed with Hap 40, but it was definitely hair whittling sharp. So it came out nice, and in future sharpenings I'm going to add more stones into the mix. I don't think I've seen the full potential of these stones yet. I think that will really come out when I'm doing the sharpening and I'm mixing more stones into it, bringing in a Spyderco Ultrafine, 12,000 grit Shapton, possibly putting in more strops of the process instead of just 4 at the end coming down from 0.92 micron. I think I'm hoping that I'll see phenomenal results with it. And I wasn't disappointed with this sharpening, but I wanted to just evaluate these stones, not bring others into it, and then, like I said, I thought it would be interesting just to move forward with the progression of strops as far as the micron size of the abrasive. But yeah, it's an interesting product, and I'm glad that I picked it up. I'm glad that Shapton decided to offer it, because it makes it available at a price that's more realistic. I mean, a lot of people in the sharpening world, in the knife world, they can't afford the cost of Shapton glass stones, the full-size stones. So smart move, I think, for Shapton to offer this, and I enjoyed using it. I'm looking forward to using them more.